All right, ready to dive into mutual funds. We've got this great article here from the Penny Hoarder, and I'm excited to get a little more clarity on if these are right for me. I know people are always saying invest, invest, but I'm not sure where to even start.
Yeah, picking investments can be tricky. It's a lot for someone to take on.
Definitely. So mutual funds, what are those all about?
Well, think about it like this. A mutual fund, it's kind of like a big basket of investments.
Wow, basket.
Yeah, a basket. It could be stocks, it could be bonds, all kinds of things in there.
Oh, okay. So like instead of trying to pick each individual stock, I
You
just
just put money in the fund.
got it.
And then a professional, someone who really knows what they're doing, they manage it for you.
Makes sense. So that kind of takes the pressure off me to become some kind of stock market whiz.
Exactly. That's one of the big appeals of mutual funds. Plus, there's built-in diversification.
Diversification.
Yeah, you're spreading your money across lots of different companies. You know, like that old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
So if one company doesn't do well, your whole investment isn't sunk.
Makes sense. So less risk overall.
Cool.
And I guess the expertise of the person managing the fund is another plus, right?
Exactly. They're researching companies, analyzing trends, really doing the heavy lifting so you don't have to.
So it sounds pretty good so far. But this article also mentioned something about fees.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides? Like, do I have to pay extra for all this convenience?
Well, there are some costs involved.
Oh, okay.
And understanding these is super important, because over time, they can really impact how much money you make.
Gotcha. So what kinds of fees are we talking about?
Well, one thing to watch out for is what they call loads.
Loads. Is that like some kind of penalty for investing?
Not exactly a penalty. It's more like a commission that you pay up front when you buy certain types of mutual funds.
Mm.
These are usually called Class A shares,
Class A shares. Okay. So I'm paying a commission just to get started.
basically. And it can be a pretty big chunk of change. The article mentions that sometimes they can be as high as like 5.4%.
5.4%. Whoa, that does seem like a lot.
Right. So imagine you invest $1,000, and before any of that money even starts working for you, boom, 54 bucks, gone.
Just like that.
Just like that, straight to the person who sold you the fund.
Wow. Okay. So besides these loads, are there any other fees I should be aware of?
Yeah, there are. Mutual funds, they also have something called management fees,
Okay.
which is essentially what you're paying to have your money professionally managed.
Makes sense.
It's usually calculated as a percentage of your total investment, and they take it out either annually or quarterly.
So even though those percentages might seem small
They can really add up.
over time, okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to see why understanding all of this is so important. It's kind of scary to think that those little fees can add up to so much over time.
Yeah, like a small leak in a boat, you don't notice it at first, but...
Eventually, the whole thing sinks.
Exactly. So it's good to know what to look out for and what other options you have.
Right, right. So the article mentioned no-load funds. What are those?
So no-load funds are pretty much what they sound like.
Oh.
They're mutual funds,
Yeah.
but you buy them directly from the company.
Straight from the source.
That's it. You're cutting out the middleman.
Oh, okay. So like going to the farmer's market
Exactly.
instead of the grocery store.
You get it. You go straight to the source, and that means no upfront sales charges, no commissions,
So no loads.
no loads. A lot of the big investment companies like Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab,
I've heard of those.
they all offer these. You can set up an account online, start investing, and avoid those loads.
Awesome. What about index funds? Those sounded interesting too.
Index funds, those are great. A lot of people really like those, especially if you want to keep costs down.
Okay.
They work a little differently, though. Instead of having a manager actively picking stocks, they just track a specific market index, like, the S&P 500.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
So basically, they just mirror the performance of the overall market.
Oh, so they're not trying to beat the market.
Right, they just try to match it. And because there's no active management, the fees are a lot lower.
Interesting.
And, over long periods, you might be surprised to learn this, but they actually often perform better than a lot of funds that have those active managers.
Wow, really?
Once you factor in the fees, it really adds up. It's like the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race.
That makes sense. So with index funds, is it good to have more than one?
That's a great question. It's generally a good idea to have more than one.
Okay. Even though, The S&P 500, it's a lot of different companies.
It is, but you can diversify even further by having index funds that focus on different parts of the market.
Okay.
You could have one that tracks the S&P 500, one that focuses on international companies, maybe one for bonds.
So you're spreading your risk even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That helps you weather different market conditions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, spreading the risk, that's a key takeaway here.
Got it. What if I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed by all these choices and I kind of just want someone to tell me what to do?
I get that. It can definitely feel like a lot.
Yeah. The article mentioned something about fee-only advisors. Is that something that I should look into?
It could be a really good option for some people. If you want personalized advice, but you don't want to deal with like those commission-based advisors
Nope.
who might try to push you towards certain products.
Right.
A fee-only advisor, they might be a good fit.
So they're not being paid to sell me something specific.
Exactly. You pay them directly for their advice, usually by the hour or through a retainer fee, and because they're not earning commissions on the investments they recommend.
It's more objective advice.
You can feel more confident that they're putting your interests first.
That makes sense. But what about someone like me, just starting out, maybe not quite ready to pay for an advisor yet?
Oh, I get it. There are definitely some good options for you too. You've probably heard of robo-advisors.
Yeah, I think so.
They've gotten really popular in the past few years, especially for people who are newer to investing.
Okay.
So basically, they use algorithms and technology to manage your investments for you.
So it's like a computer program making investment decisions for me.
Exactly. And they tend to have lower fees than a traditional human advisor.
Interesting.
You answer some questions about your finances, your goals, and then they build you a portfolio and they just manage it automatically.
Wow. So hands off.
Really easy.
That sounds pretty convenient.
Hmm.
And then, of course, there's the good old 401k that a lot of people get through their jobs.
Absolutely. Yeah, 401ks, those are definitely something to take advantage of, especially if your employer offers a matching contribution.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing about.
You should always contribute enough to get that full match from your company.
My friend was telling me that.
It's free money. Think
Mhm.
about it like that.
That's a good point. I haven't really looked into it that much.
Free money to invest for retirement.
I'm definitely going to call HR tomorrow.
Mm.
But are there any downsides to 401ks I should know about?
Well, one thing to be aware of is that you're generally limited to the investment options they offer.
Okay.
And some plans have better choices than others.
Right.
The fees can vary too. So, yeah, you want to compare what's available.
So even with a 401k, you still need to watch out for those sneaky fees.
Always. It's a good habit to get into.
It seems like no matter which way you go, the important thing is to just be mindful of those costs.
Exactly. You really don't want to be eating away at your potential gains without even realizing it.
That's for sure. I feel like my head is spinning a little bit.
That's a lot of info.
It is. But I'm glad we talked about it. It's good to know what's out there and, not be in the dark about it all.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, right?
Right. So to recap, we've got mutual funds
Right.
where someone's managing it for you. You got those no-load funds going straight to the source.
Cut out the middleman.
Index funds, just tracking the market. Fee-only advisors.
If you want a little more personalized help.
Robo-advisors.
Yeah, those are getting popular.
And of course, the 401k.
Can't forget about that free money from your employer.
Absolutely not.
Lots of options.
It is a lot of options. But I feel like I've gone from being totally clueless about investing to actually understanding what those options are.
That's great.
And more importantly, how they can work for me.
That's the goal. It's all about empowering you to make those decisions.
Instead of just, feeling like I have to go with whatever someone's trying to sell me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not stuck with those high fee options anymore.
Right.
You can pick what's best for you.
Awesome. So for me personally, I'm kind of leaning toward those index funds right now. They seem pretty appealing. Just set it and forget it.
That's a popular choice.
What about you? What stood out to you the most from all this stuff?
I think what really struck me, honestly, is how much those fees can really make a difference over time.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at those percentages and think, oh, they're small.
That doesn't seem like a lot.
But over the years, it can really add up.
Yeah, it's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
But for your returns.
Exactly. So no matter what strategy you decide to go with, just be sure you know what those fees are and how they could affect you down the line.
Good advice.
Absolutely. Got to be informed.
Informed investors.
Empowered investors.
Yes. I love it. Well, I feel a lot more confident about my next steps.
Awesome.
This deep dive has been super helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time to walk me through all of this.
Of course. Happy to help. Glad you found it useful.
I definitely did. Now I feel like I can actually make some smart decisions for my future.
Well, this is just the beginning, right?
It is.
You've taken that first step, you've educated yourself. Now it's time to dig a little deeper
Love it.
into the things that sound good to you.
Yep.
Do some more research, compare those different options,
Okay.
and don't be afraid to ask questions if you need help.
Never be afraid to ask questions. It's good advice. All right, so for everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into mutual funds.
And happy investing.
See you next time.